Welcome to Free For All. I'm Miles Anderson.
And I'm Ken Cummins. If you saw this year's Academy Awards show, you may recall an Oscar being handed out for Best Documentary Short Subject. Our first guest tonight was one of 3 nominees in that category. He didn't win. We won't keep you in suspense about that. But as often is the case in these situations, the loser turns out to be a better story than the winner.
We're going to got a great story coming up right after Dave Peterson with a local artist, Juliana, who'll be doing a multi-character performance of a piece called 12 Days of Christmas.
But before we get to that, we're going to take a look at Dave Peterson, the filmmaker's work, just a bit of it, the work that won him this year's nomination. And it's called Fine Food, Fine Pastries, open 6 to 9. And here it is.
Good morning.
Most people have been coming in here for years and years, get lots of advice. I mean, they will walk out, and even I will say to them, button up your sweater, button up your coat in the wintertime, you know. And it's just that everybody feels close and like family. And some people that come in here do not have any family at all.
Oh, I don't think I ever got that point. You know, the other person, they're fighting segregation now. Women want to be equal, is all right with me.
I didn't say that.
I didn't pass the law.
The only thing I like
didn't
about
pass the law.
women's list, if a woman does the same type of job that a man is doing, and she works, I mean works now, I don't mean play around, but I mean work.
I said, you eat it, now you're going to get sick of it. And then after all these things, it takes a pie a la mode. But you shouldn't even eat.
I'm going more.
Ain't going to eat them all. That's what you say, but you turn around and do it all over again.
Oh, no. Oh, yeah, Julie got shot in that holdup. The only holdup we ever had, my brother got shot. Yeah. And he's still carrying the bullet. Still got the bullet right up in his shoulder there.
I think she should get paid the same as a man does for that job.
You don't have to take away from all this. You don't have to worry about nothing. You know that.
But Joe, I'm waiting.
What the hell I want to see Kate?
You ready with the money? Let's go.
I can see him down a hole.
I'm willing.
And this is David Peterson. You're the producer. You're responsible for what we just saw and what was in contention for an Oscar this year. You didn't win. I guess we should briefly say you didn't win that one, but you have won a lot of awards with this documentary, haven't you?
Yeah. You try to enter it into festivals, you know, and try to get it shown. I mean, that's how you get a documentary shown, and that's how you get it distributed.
You won an Emmy, I think, didn't you?
Yeah, an Emmy Award, and it was shown in Paris and Cinema du Royal Festival, and Sydney in Australia, American Festival, won awards in that, and National Educational Festival, and Sydney Golden Eagle. So.
And this is your first venture into this sort of thing?
Well, it's my first documentary that I've made on my own. I've made other short films, but this is the first, you know, half-an-hour documentary I've made. I've worked on a lot of other films.
Yeah. How long did this take, and are you bankrupt because of it?
It took about 4.5 years total, raising the money, walking in there, raising the money, and just, you know, working there and getting to know them and filming it, editing it, getting it distributed on up to the award.
And how much did it cost you?
Just under $40,000, you know, with everything.
Right.
That's
Well, tell me,
all the trims.
How did you come to, what about Sherrills inspired you to do the documentary about it?
It's a time capsule. It's a place that's completely divorced of the 1990s or 1980s when I walked in.
More like the 40s and 50s.
More like actually the 20s and 30s. Really, the architecture hasn't changed since that time. They haven't touched any of the machines other than what needed to be replaced. The shake mixers is still the same. You know, Hamilton Beach shake mixers and the Abbott's ice cream signs and the trimmed booths and so on. That's all Art Deco. That's all from the 30s.
Right.
And they kept it that way because it's like someone's living room, you know. People don't move out the antique furniture in their living room. They keep it there, and that's their living room.
But did you go there? I mean, were you a Sherrills habitué like some of the people that you filmed in there, or?
Yeah, I went in there as a regular, and then I just decided to work there and help them out because, you know, I really wanted to get to know them. And I, you know, flipped hot cakes, and I, you know, took orders from the counter, and I you know, washed dishes, did everything that I needed to help them out. And then it was sort of an exchange, you know. I mean, I sort of feel like a documentary filmmaker can't steal someone's soul, take it and make a career. You know, you have to give something back, and that was my.
So you flipped hot cakes to repay them for stealing their soul. I'm not sure that was a really good.
Yeah, well, I think Lola got out there, got to see Lola's the owner.
Lola,
Yeah.
what's her last name?
Lola Rivas. She got. I took her to the Academy Awards, so in a sense, I had my soul right next to me.
Now, what was that like? That must have been quite an experience for you, but an amazing experience for her. I'm sure she'd never.
Yeah, it was kind of strange, actually. It was sort of like a huge freak show. I mean, we got in about the same time when there was a lot of stars coming out. Steve Martin, Diana Ross, and a bunch of people coming out of these limousines. And I don't know if you saw the news, but they had people waiting on either side of this red carpet in bleachers for 3 days. They'd been sleeping there.
Right.
So all they were doing was they had slept there for 3 days to watch actors walk 40 feet from their limousines to the entrance of the pavilion. And when they spotted an actor that they saw, they started screaming as though someone had been shot. It was that kind of terror. And so I'm trying to guide Lola through the crowd, and Steve Martin started swiveling his head like it's on a pneumatic motor inside of his neck. And then there's a wall of photographers that, like an oceanic swell, just move in to get, you know, a shot of actors or actresses that are going down the ramp. And just as I'm trying to clear the way so no one knocks over Lola or anything, these two women in shaved heads, covered in gold paint and tight bodysuits, to look like Oscars, are walking diaphanously toward us. You know. So that was the first impression of the awards I had. Helicopters going above us, you know, the whole town goes crazy. It's full day coverage of the events, everything from the meal to. So that was the whole sort of beginning of the experience, and then we settled down. And Lola said the music was a little loud because in the pavilion they have music that goes on through speakers.
This is the famous Dorothy Chandler Pavilion.
Yeah.
Who was Dorothy Chandler?
I actually have absolutely no idea. I assume she was a patron of the classical arts.
Yeah, she was the wife of the publisher of the LA Times.
Right.
You would have known that.
Now, we better mention the guy who won, because he is also from Washington, Charles Guggenheim.
Right. A.K.A. Crazy Guggenheim.
No, I don't think it's the same guy.
Oh, different guy.
Different guy. But this guy, I mean, it was quite a contrast between what you did and what he did. He was totally sponsored, right? He made a film on the Jonestown flood.
Yeah.
Johnstown flood.
Johnstown flood was a flood that
Jonestown was a Kool-Aid flood.
Right.
It was a flood that happened in Pennsylvania about 100 years ago. In fact, exactly 100 years ago. At the point
I realized
it was making a film. It was made as an anniversary.
He was totally funded, whereas yours was more like a
museum. There's a Johnstown museum.
Right.
Right.
And yours was more like an independent filmmaker getting out there and trying to do something. I mean, essentially that's what it was. I mean, you had no sponsorship. I remember there were fundraisers in the community to get money to finish this thing. And
yeah, I think the hardest thing about that film was to raise money. No one really believed that it was a film that had any depth or that had any... I mean, they did in a way, but it was hard to convince them that a film about a diner had something more to say than just... It was just light, effervescent fare. You know, this is a film about people who've spent their whole lives inside of a coffee shop, and they've, you know, literally spent the majority of their life work, 40 years, 30 years.
It's kind of monastic in a way that they have their...
It's a very closed circle. It's a closed world. It's a whole world that exists and suffices on its own.
One thing that always intrigued me about Sherrills is that you go in there, you know, the food is cheap. It's a great breakfast place, but I mean, it seems like people go in there to get abused by the waiters and waitresses. I mean, it's not, you know, you can take a lot of abuse if you're a customer from these people. I think we saw some of that in the clip. You know, they're having this debate over women's liberation.
Well, Lola seems a little short-tempered too at times. She seems impatient.
Well, you know, as I say, if you work 40 years in a servile position in a powerful town, in the most powerful part of town, which is Capitol Hill, owned and operated by men, you're going to be a little cranky, and you're going to also feel that you have a little pride in your work, and you deserve respect if you've been working there 40 years. I don't know how many people have been working on the Hill for 40 years, you know.
That's true.
And especially in a servile position like that.
Well, what do you think the appeal of that place is, since you've studied it close at hand for 4.5 years?
I guess it's like the appeal of going home to something you can count on, that's going to stay the same, that's not going to change. Same sort of appeal that, you know, the living room that you were in, the house that you were born in has. You know, when you return back to it, it's that same kind of appeal, I think.
Right.
The food keeps you alive. That's what one of the
it's
customers
affordable.
says. It keeps you alive. It's not supposed to be something that is any great delicacy or any, you know, it's specifically American, you know, but it's really just food that keeps you alive, and it's a place where you can read your newspaper and not get bothered, not told that you have a 20-minute consumption limit.
Yeah.
Yes, well, Capitol Hill, in a way, is a lot like that. It's very much preserved. You can't imagine somebody bulldozing a couple of blocks of Capitol Hill and putting up a high-rise.
Except for the federal government.
Yeah.
That's the only threat, actually.
Yeah,
I mean, there were actually the Guinness Book of World Records, either Guinness Book of World Records or Ripley, believe it or not, said the block just down from Sherrills had the greatest number of restaurants than any other block in the United States or the world. It was just a block that was suffused with every restaurant you could imagine. And it was plowed down by the government. They bought up the block, and there was a big controversy in the mid-60s about it. And then they had it vacant for a long time. So actually there's a sort of adversarial relationship between the federal government and the small town community of Capitol Hill. It's really a small town.
Yes, you see that, those battles going on all the time. Well, you spent about $40,000 on this, you figure, compared to, I guess, Guggenheim spent about $1 million, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to estimate because he's making an hour-long film based on the film he made for half an hour.
But this category, you had to be under 30 minutes, right?
Yeah, it had to be under 30 minutes. There was no cost factor in it, you know. 40,000, 1 million, it didn't matter.
What are you going to do now?
I have two projects. One, I got a grant from the D.C. Commission on the Arts to do a dramatic film about a family in Washington, and another one, I want to make a film about a storefront church. That's a documentary.
Right. A family, any family, or what? Do you have a family picked out, or?
Well, the dramatic project it's based on a series of stories I've written.
Oh.
I also write fiction, so it's also based on.
And you did the music for this, is that right?
Yeah. I used to play in a band called the Insect Surfers.
Oh,
which
you
was
did?
in Washington.
Miles plays in a band. I remember that band.
Yeah, the Insect Surfers, yeah.
Yes.
Well, I was one of the founding members.
Is that right?
Me and Dave Arnson. So I've always been playing music. In fact, I got involved in film because I could paint and I could write and I could do all this music. So I figured, oh well, film, it fuses all these three things, and what a perfect art form for me. And I realized that it also deals with business and accounting and fundraising and phone calls and organization, all of which I'm absolutely horrible at. So I mean, in a way, it's kind of a.
It's always the artist's downfall.
Yeah, right.
It's a fabulously creative town, I'll tell you. Really, to find in individuals, the arts and music, I find every time we have a guest on the show, seems to know half the other people that are working with us. And it's a very closely knit community.
Yeah, it's
like
very
everybody
small
out there.
town. I mean, I know Charles Guggenheim and Paul Wagner, who won an award, the Academy Award in '85, and I worked on that film. And,
is that how you apprentice, basically?
Basically, yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, you really know most of the people. This is really a small town community, as evidenced by Sherrills, which is part of that small town,
Right.
And everyone that rooted for that film, all the media, like Channel 9, Channel 4, even the Post, that was part of sort of the small town boy does good, and that was really what I felt from everyone. It was sort of this small knit community sort of rooting for